This is Pac Man on the Atari 5200. And trying to work with the 5200 is like trying to reason with small children. It pretty much does whatever it wants to do, irregardless of any common sense, and basically does the opposite of what you want it to do. And then it throws up on you. Not literally, but figuratively. That would have been quite something if they could have made the Atari 5200 actually do that. It's also an expensive little creature. So in some respects, it's like a 1982 Jaguar. Beautiful to look at, wonderful to drive, yet it'll spend 95% of its time in the shop costing you money. Pac Man, the original Pac Man for the Atari 5200, is an excellent video game, and I remember this from way back in the day, back in 1982 or 1983 when I was a kid. And I had an Atari 2600 with Pac Man, and Pac Man on the 2600 just sucks. It's got nothing to do with the arcade Pac Man. I knew a kid that had a 5200, and this was incredible because it really is an excellent Pac Man conversion. It looks great, it sounds great, and the only problem with this game is that the Atari 5200 controller is terrible for Pac Man. It's terrible for pretty much everything, in my opinion. I hear there's a few games it's good for. I'm going to have to wait and try those out, but I'm familiar with Pac Man. And the 5200 controller, which does not self-center like the Atari 2600 controller. It has a small joystick like the 2600 controller. It's a very long throw controller. You make very, very long, wide movements with it. And for Pac Man, you need to make very short, quick movements. So while I'm fairly good at Pac Man and Ms. Pac Man, my gameplay in this review is terrible. It's not my fault. And of course they had to make it complicated with additional buttons and a keypad, so you can't swap it out with a 2600 or 7800 controller, which also use the same plug as the Sega Genesis controllers. The Atari 5200 controller has a special plug just for the Atari 5200. It's like adding insult to injury, throwing salt on the wound, or someone taking your beer before you finished it. Well, you can always order another beer. That's easy enough. But finding a 5200 controller or a third-party controller that works really well is not an easy thing. Okay, enough on the controls. Note that the sound effects and music in this game are better than most Atari 7800 games. I really can't get over the quality of this version of Pac Man. It is truly excellent. And this is the one that stands out to me, at least, because I remember it from when I was a kid, as the defining reason to get a 5200, which, of course, there was no way in hell I was going to convince my parents to buy me a 5200, which is why I had to wait until now, when I'm in my 30s, I could buy my own. Awesome. Getting old rocks. If it looks like Pac Man's mouth is not always moving, that actually has to do with going from interlaced footage to de-interlaced footage on an old game console. At times it comes out a little wonky. His mouth is moving when you play this on a television. It looks excellent. It looks like the arcade Pac Man. I look forward to reviewing more Atari 5200 games here on Classic Game Room. I'm pretty excited to finally have a 5200. And as frustrating as it is, and I'll admit it's a frustrating game console, there's some really cool games out for it, and games that you may be familiar with on the 2600, which look totally different on the 5200. It's not a game system for beginners, so the 5200 is really more of an enthusiast collector's item. And many of you watching the show collect Atari games. I look forward to reviewing a lot of these for you. Maybe you'll want to go out and add them to your collection. If you're just starting out, however, buy an Atari 2600 or 7800. And that's all for now. I have Pac-Man fever. The only cure is more Pac-Man. You see, I saw those ghosts coming a mile away, but the whole thing with Pac-Man is pushing your limits. How far do you go before you turn the opposite direction? Because you're really trying to rack up those points. In the time that it takes to make the decision to go in the opposite direction, and your brain sends the signal to your hand, and your hand goes to use this joystick, which takes a half mile to go from left to right, the ghosts eat you. This is my Atari 5200. Here's the game cartridge for Pac Man. You can see this is a huge game cartridge, very solid and well constructed. Just wanted to show you the controller that I was talking about earlier, the infamous Atari 5200 controller. Very wide motions from left to right. So it's difficult for Pac Man. Also, it doesn't center. So you can pull off in one direction, it just sort of stays there. It's a bit mushy. These things are notorious for breaking and being of fairly low quality. So I'm going to look into another option for Pac Man because it's an excellent game cartridge. And, well, just wanted to share that with everybody. Looks more like a telephone.